Okay, so, well, first of all, welcome to everyone. I'm going to have a slightly shorter presentation, and the aim of what I'm going to discuss is really also to frame the discussion, well, particularly for one of the groups that we're going to have, where we're going to look at the business case and how you create a community of innovation. So what I wanted to show here, and it follows very nicely on Reindeer's presentation, is, well, this one you could also call it a tool, but what I think is different to some of the other tools we've seen is that this tool, what it really is trying to do is to create a process to facilitate, the kind of the matching of people that have a problem. In this case, it would be a city, with people that could have solutions, innovators, or it could be communities, it doesn't necessarily always have to be companies, it could be universities. And it kind of structures this process of meeting up and matchmaking, and that's why we call it, and it's based on the business canvas. But another big difference with this, apart from the fact that it has, we try to make explicit this kind of supply and demand aspect that you normally don't see in a business canvas, I think also it tries to tap into all kinds of values. So it captures not just the private values, which is what most business canvases do, but we also try to tap into the public values, which in the case of nature-based solutions are absolutely critical, the public goods, and also the community values, So in a way, it tries to really do a kind of integrated value assessment and somehow generate action, and I'm also happy to see that Caris is here with us from Cyprus, because we tried this out with them back in December, using it in the river that runs through the three cities in Cyprus, to try to come up with some kind of a business case for investing in nature. And the difference also with this canvas is that, as Dirac said, it's coming out from this project, which is entering its last months at the moment, called Nayar, where we're also trying to engage with the insurance sector, which is quite often forgotten, and yet it is a critical actor when you're dealing with risks, and particularly with cities, because of the damages that happen at the cities in these disaster events can be into the millions, so we're trying to somehow rope them in. I also wanted to say that this is a canvas that we have now applied in 9 cases. So one, and I think what is interesting in Nayar is that it went slightly beyond the city. It also looked at the city region or the city basin. So at the city scale, we did look at Copenhagen, Rotterdam, and Lutz in Poland. But we also looked at the basins around Montpellier, Nice, the city of Medina, Ljubljana, London, and Craiova in Romania. Because in a way, sometimes when you're dealing with risks, it might be more effective to move slightly outside your municipality boundary, which we are aware can be quite difficult. But I think that that's something that we have to also consider into the future. Next. Okay, so this is the other thing, another thing that I wanted to share, because we could use this, or cities hopefully could use this. It's similar to the Opla marketplace, but in the sense, but it's got a slight difference in that this one is really geared towards climate change, and this is again another output from a project that is also finishing at the moment, which is a good time to look at these projects, because it's when they have all the tools and results kind of packaged, ready to be used after all that public investment on research. And this one will actually have its final meeting 2 days from now. And what you can see here is that this is actually a website, and it is basically a bit like a kind of like you would have in Amazon. Is that logic, that you actually have. Here you could do searches on the kind of hazard that you're concerned about, but then you also have to look, you can look at the innovators and the innovations. And this project made an effort to actually target particularly nature-based solutions as one of the key innovations to deal with climate change, in line with ecosystem-based adaptation. Next. Okay, so here I just put a kind of, a bit like a reindeer. I also took snapshots of the website, and you can see here some of the innovations that and the innovators that participated in this project. And some of them were supported, they were selected, they went through a process of cycles of of selection, and also these little kind of little stickers that you see here is because some of them were supported by the project, to somehow, and this is relevant for your cities. So if you want to encourage innovation in your cities and you have innovators, one of the ideas is that I think cities are going to be critical as ecosystems of innovation for their own innovators, and then you create new businesses that are nature-based enterprises. A new kind of business model underlines these types of businesses. So for example, one of the issues that you could see in these innovators, you can see we put TRL. That means to what extent that innovation is market ready, is fully at the market stage, or if they're earlier in the market, it is critical that you support them. And I actually want to say that one of the cities here, Valladolid, has been very, very good at really taking that role on of seeing themselves as a huge supporter for innovation and taking a little bit of that risk that comes with solutions that have not been tried and tested yet and have to be taken from the prototype level all the way to the market, because quite often the private sector at the very early stage might not necessarily kind of step in, and that's where I think this collaboration between the public and the private sectors are really critical, but also to create jobs in our cities, the right kind of jobs, with the kind of green kind of economy model that we want in the future, and that is much more socially equitable. These often tend to be small companies, which, as we know, is the bloodstream of our jobs in our cities. Next. So what, and this is actually my last slide. This is one of the things that we're going to look at in one of the groups that we will have following up. Basically, I think you'll hear Nieves in a moment, and she has a much more kind of in-depth kind of look at the different ways that you can do collaboration. But in Brigade, we kept it simple, and we actually talked about the golden triangle. For us, this is almost like you can have many things, when you try to create an ecosystem of innovation or a community of innovation in your city. But for us, ultimately, after we had this project Brigade, and this is what we want to continue with ACTonNBS, hopefully, thankfully, with maybe some of you, if you're interested, is this idea that you really need three key elements. You need to have the end user, the city that has a problem that they want to address. With climate change, we know that they're going to be much more. So when we interviewed the cities, what for me particularly was very interesting, I think for all of us that did the interviews, is that you share the problems, yet your contexts are very different because your economic sectors in your cities are really quite diverse. Cities that had, for example, I remember in Berkeley, they had chewing gum. I still remember, and in other cities, it was the electronics sector. So the cities themselves are quite different, but the problems are shared. So the cities is one of the key actors. Then the light bulb there is the innovation, the innovators. You need to identify who you want to support, so they come forward to answer your needs as a city in the problems that you're facing, some of the problems that you might not know or might just be appearing, and therefore is the innovators that are likely to be the first ones to see that, but they will need support to move forward. Otherwise, they will not, cross the valley of death that many startups, kind of often good ones, fall through. And then, of course, the little plan there, you need the money, and the money could come from the cities if you have innovative public procurement, or it could come, as Dirac said, from finance. There's a huge move now in the ESG world with the corporate sector, and you can do. I know, for example, that Bologna has done some really exciting work with a life project around trees in the city, collaborating with the corporate sector. And also, of course, we have big moves coming from Europe, big signals that they want to move towards a sustainable finance. As you know, currently the adaptation strategy of the European Union is under consultation, which is a very important moment to basically give voice to all of us as to what we want for the future adaptation strategy. And alongside the adaptation strategy that will be probably approved early next year, there's a sustainable finance and the taxonomy that is going to basically give very strong signals to the market, particularly the private sector, that they have to be sustainable. Some areas where they invested in before would not be an option anymore. So, for example, thinking of the example that Dirac gave earlier of the even silly things, or or small things like, you would think the tracks on a tram, the taxonomy will give the signal. Is not no longer, if you have a choice, I want the green tram railways, not the grey ones. That's the kind of message that I think the European Union is trying to do, and this is kind of at the heart of this workshop, that we want to radically upscale. So we have to move beyond, when these green solutions are cute little kind of examples dotted around Europe, to becoming what we call when green becomes the new grey. So we really mainstream these solutions as multifunctional and having many values beyond risk reduction, also the value to health, the value to mental health, well-being, etc., etc. With that, I think this is my last slide, and we want to talk to you about how we can maybe create business cases for innovations or nature-based solutions, and then how we can stimulate creating, on the one hand, local communities of innovation, where I think, can be very much, the cities, to me, are going to be one of the key drivers. You have a huge role, particularly after the pandemic. Unfortunately, I think local is going to be critical for people. And also to create a network of cities, so that then you have city-to-city learning and you can support each other and exchange experiences. I think that you yourselves as a community have a huge strength and value that we want to somehow support with this project. So then you actually learn from each other, and we just learn from you, actually. So thank you very much.